Outside a convenience store at 11:43 p.m., a 14-year-old homeless girl clutched a stolen bag of chips while three drunken men closed in around her. She had nowhere to run until the roar of motorcycle engines split the night air. 7 leather-clad women pulled up on gleaming chrome bikes, their eyes sharp as knives. The leader, a woman with silver hair and a scar across her jaw, stepped forward and said just 4 words: "She's coming with us." What happened next would expose a trafficking ring, unite an entire community, and prove that the fiercest protectors don't always wear badges. They wear leather and ride at dawn. The girl's name was Maya, and she'd been living under the Madison Street Bridge for 9 months after aging out of a failed foster placement. She survived on stolen food, avoided eye contact, and learned to disappear into crowds. But that night, exhaustion and hunger made her careless. The 3 men saw an opportunity, a child alone, vulnerable, invisible to the world. The biker gang called themselves the Iron Sisters, founded 12 years earlier by former military women, nurses, and survivors of violence. Their mission was simple: protect those the system forgot. They patrolled neighborhoods after dark, responded to distress calls from shelters, and maintained a network of safe houses across 3 counties. Their leader, known only as Reese, had served 2 tours overseas before a roadside bomb ended her military career, but not her sense of duty. If you want to know how Maya's life changed in the next 72 hours, keep watching, because this story gets deeper than anyone expected. Maya pressed her back against the cold brick wall of the convenience store, the stolen bag of chips crumpling in her trembling hands. The 3 men formed a loose semicircle around her, their breath reeking of whiskey and malice. The tallest one, wearing a stained flannel shirt, grinned with yellowed teeth. "Where you headed, sweetheart?" he slurred, taking a step closer. She didn't answer. Her throat had closed up the way it always did when danger came too close. She'd learned that words only made things worse. Silence was safer. Invisibility was survival. The second man, younger with a patchy beard, reached out as if to touch her hair. "She's just a kid, man. Maybe we should mind our own business," the third man interrupted, his voice colder than the others. He wore clean clothes and spoke without slurring. That made him more dangerous. "Nobody's looking for her. Look at her. She's street trash. Probably got no family, no home." Maya's eyes darted left and right, searching for an opening, but the parking lot was empty, except for 2 parked cars and the fluorescent hum of the store's sign. The clerk inside had already locked the door and turned away when he saw what was happening. She'd seen that look before, the look that said, "Not my problem." Her fingers tightened around the chips. If she threw them and ran, she might make it to the bridge before they caught her. But her legs felt like concrete, and her worn sneakers had holes that would slow her down. The clean-dressed man pulled out his phone. "I know someone who'd pay good money for a girl like this. Young, scared, nobody asking questions." Maya's stomach lurched. She'd heard stories from other street kids, stories about vans that came in the night, about children who disappeared and never came back. She'd always told herself it couldn't happen to her, that she was too smart, too careful. She was wrong. The roar came first, a deep rolling thunder that seemed to shake the asphalt beneath her feet. Then the headlights swept across the parking lot, 6 motorcycles pulling in formation like a cavalry charge. The engines cut simultaneously, leaving a ringing silence that felt louder than the noise. 7 women dismounted in perfect synchronization. They wore black leather jackets with a silver emblem stitched on the back, 2 crossed swords behind a shield. Their boots hit the pavement with military precision. The leader walked forward, her silver hair pulled back in a tight braid, her face weathered by sun and scars. She stopped 10 feet from Maya and crossed her arms, her gaze fixed on the 3 men. "You boys lost." Her voice was quiet, almost conversational. The clean-dressed man tried to laugh it off. "Just talking to a friend. None of your business." Reese tilted her head slightly. "That girl looked like your friend to you." "She's nobody." "Street kid. You were just leaving." Reese took one step forward. The other 6 women fanned out behind her, silent and watchful. "Right now." The flannel-shirted man puffed up his chest. "You can't tell us what to—" One of the bikers, a black woman with grey streaks in her short hair, spoke up. "Marcus Thompson, right? You still work at the tire shop on Henderson Avenue? Your mama still live on Oak Street?" The man's face went pale. Another biker, younger with bright red hair, smiled without warmth. "And you're Derek Paulson, 3 DUIs, suspended license. Should we call your parole officer, or you gonna walk away?" The 3 men looked at each other. The math wasn't in their favor. 7 armed women who knew their names against 3 drunks in a parking lot. The clean-dressed man muttered something under his breath and backed away first. The others followed, stumbling toward a rusted pickup truck at the far end of the lot. Reese didn't move until the truck's taillights disappeared down the street. Then she turned to Maya, her expression softening. "You okay?" Maya couldn't speak. She nodded once, her body still rigid against the wall. "When's the last time you ate something besides stolen chips?" Maya's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. Reese crouched down to eye level, her voice gentle. "I'm Reese. These are my sisters. We run a safe house about 15 minutes from here. Clean beds, hot food, no questions asked. You interested?" Maya whispered. "Why?" "Because 12 years ago I was you, and someone stopped for me." Reese stood up and extended her hand. "What's your name?" "Maya." "Well, Maya, you're coming with us." The Iron Sisters safe house occupied a converted firehouse on the edge of town, 3 stories of red brick with arched garage doors that now sheltered motorcycles instead of fire trucks. Maya sat in the back of Reese's truck. They'd loaded her bike into a trailer for the ride, watching the city lights give way to quieter streets lined with oak trees. Her mind raced with possibilities, each darker than the last. She'd heard stories about people who pretended to help, who offered safety and delivered something worse. But the women didn't try to talk to her during the drive, didn't ask invasive questions or make promises they couldn't keep. They just drove in formation, engines humming like a protective shield. When they pulled into the firehouse lot, Maya saw lights in every window. Through the glass, she could make out figures moving around. More women, some young, some old. A teenage girl with a baby on her hip stood in the doorway, waving. Reese killed the engine and turned around. "Before we go in, you should know, this isn't a foster home. We're not part of the system. We're just women who help other women and kids who need somewhere safe. You stay as long as you want, leave whenever you're ready. No locks on the doors except the ones you control." Maya's voice came out scratchy. "What if someone comes looking for me?" "Nobody comes through those doors unless we let them." Reese's jaw tightened. "And trust me, we're very good at keeping people out." Inside, the firehouse had been transformed into something between a barracks and a home. The main garage bay housed a workshop filled with motorcycle parts and tools. The second floor contained a communal kitchen and dining area where 4 women sat around a long wooden table playing cards. The third floor held sleeping quarters, a dozen small rooms with real beds, clean sheets, and doors that locked from the inside. A woman in her 60s, her grey hair in a crown of braids, approached with a steaming bowl of soup. "I'm Gloria. Made this about an hour ago. You hungry?" Maya took the bowl with shaking hands. The soup smelled like heaven, chicken, vegetables, real spices. She wanted to devour it, but years of scarcity had taught her to eat slowly to make it last. Gloria smiled. "There's more in the kitchen. You don't have to ration it." Maya ate 3 bowls before her stomach finally felt full for the first time in months. The women didn't hover or stare. They went about their evening routines, washing dishes, watching television, working on a motorcycle transmission spread across newspapers in the corner. They treated her presence like it was completely normal, as if homeless teenage girls showed up at their door every night. Maybe they did. Reese appeared with a stack of clean clothes. "Showers down the hall. These should fit. We'll talk more in the morning." The hot water ran brown at first. washing away months of street grime, fear and exhaustion. Maya stood under the spray until the water ran clear and her skin turned pink. She dressed in soft sweatpants and a t-shirt that smelled like lavender detergent, then followed Reese to a small room on the 3rd floor. The bed had a real mattress, pillows and a thick comforter. A lamp on the nightstand cast warm light across plain walls. Nothing fancy, nothing decorative, just safe and clean and real. "Door locks from the inside," Reese said, demonstrating the deadbolt. "Nobody comes in unless you open it. Bathrooms shared, but everyone knocks. Breakfast is at 8, but there's always food in the kitchen if you get hungry before then." Maya sat on the edge of the bed, her hands folded in her lap. "Why are you doing this?" Reese leaned against the doorframe. "You asked me that already." "I know, but I don't understand." "You will." Reese pushed off the frame. "Get some sleep, Maya. Tomorrow we figure out what comes next." After Reese left, Maya locked the door and climbed under the covers. The mattress felt impossibly soft after months of sleeping on cardboard and concrete. She waited for the anxiety to come, for the other shoe to drop, for the nightmare to reveal itself. Instead, she fell into the deepest sleep she'd had in years. If you're watching from New York or Los Angeles, drop your city in the comments. This story spans every corner of America, and every corner has girls like Maya. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through the window, and the smell of coffee drifting up from downstairs. For 3 disoriented seconds, she didn't remember where she was. Then it came back. The parking lot, the men, the motorcycles, the safety. She unlocked the door and crept downstairs, following the sounds of conversation and clattering dishes. The kitchen was full of women ranging from their 20s to their 70s, all moving around each other with practiced ease. Gloria stood at the stove flipping pancakes while 2 younger women set the long table. "Morning, sweetheart," Gloria called out. "Sleep okay?" Maya nodded, hovering in the doorway. "Grab a plate. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, whatever you want." The table filled up quickly. Maya took a seat near the end, between a woman with sleeve tattoos and another who couldn't have been much older than 20. No one pressed her to talk, but the conversation flowed around her like a river. Talk about motorcycle maintenance, someone's upcoming court date, a donation of winter coats that needed sorting. Reese sat at the head of the table, drinking black coffee and reading something on a tablet. When everyone had finished eating, she tapped her mug with a spoon. "We've got a new sister with us, Maya." She nodded in Maya's direction. "Some of you might want to share your stories, help her understand how this works." The woman with sleeve tattoos spoke first. "I'm Vanessa. Been here 3 years. Came in beaten half to death by my ex-husband. Nowhere to go, 2 kids in tow. The system said I had to go back home to my abuser or lose my children. The sisters said different. They helped me get a restraining order, find work, get my own place. My kids are in school now, safe." A younger woman with short blonde hair raised her hand shyly. "I'm Casey, aged out of foster care at 18 with nothing. No money, no job, no family. Spent 4 months on the street before someone told me about this place. The sisters helped me get my GED, taught me motorcycle mechanics. Now I work at a shop downtown and I'm saving for my own bike." One by one they shared stories of abuse, abandonment, trafficking, addiction, homelessness. Every woman at that table had survived something that should have destroyed her, and every one of them had been given a second chance by the Iron Sisters. Maya felt something crack open in her chest. Not quite hope, but something close to it. After breakfast, Reese took Maya to a small office on the 2nd floor. "We need to talk about your situation. How old are you really?" 14. "And you're not in the system anymore." "Aged out of a group home at 13. They said I was difficult to place." Maya's voice turned bitter. "Too old, too traumatized, too much baggage." Reese's expression hardened. "That's not how it's supposed to work. That's how it worked for me. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We have a lawyer who works with us, pro bono. She specializes in cases like yours. We're going to get you legal status as an emancipated minor, which means you can make your own decisions. We're also going to get you enrolled in school, get you a part-time job if you want one, and make sure you have everything you need. Maya stared at her. Why would you do all that? Because that's what we do. Reese leaned forward. Maya, you're not the first girl we've pulled off the street. You won't be the last. This house has been running for 12 years. We've helped over 300 women and girls. Some stay a few weeks, some stay years. Some leave and come back. That's all fine. But while you're here, you're family, and we protect family. What if I can't pay you back? You don't pay us back. You pay it forward. Reese stood up. Someday, when you're older and stronger and you see someone who needs help, you stop. You help them the way we helped you. That's how this works. Maya felt tears slip down her cheeks before she could stop them. I don't know how to trust people. I know. Trust takes time, but we've got plenty of that. Over the next week, Maya learned how the Iron Sisters operated. They weren't just a motorcycle club, they were a sophisticated network of protection and support that spanned 3 counties. Every night, teams of 2 or 3 bikers patrolled specific zones, areas known for trafficking, drug activity, or violence against women. They carried radios and smartphones loaded with encrypted apps that connected them to a dispatcher who tracked their movements and coordinated responses. When someone called the emergency hotline, a number passed by word of mouth through homeless shelters, women's clinics, and street communities. The dispatcher sent the nearest team. Sometimes it was a woman trapped in an abusive relationship who needed extraction. Sometimes it was a runaway teenager sleeping in a park. Sometimes it was something worse. Maya watched from the firehouse as teams suited up for patrol. They moved with military precision, checking their bikes, testing their radios, reviewing the night's target zones. Each woman carried pepper spray, a telescoping baton, and a personal alarm. They didn't carry guns, but several had combat training that made weapons unnecessary. Why motorcycles? Maya asked Gloria one evening as they washed dishes. Visibility and mobility, Gloria explained. When people see a convoy of women on bikes, they remember it. Word spreads. Predators know we're out there watching, and if we need to get somewhere fast, we can split traffic and cut through places cars can't go. Have you ever hurt anyone? Gloria's hands paused in the dishwater. We've defended people. There's a difference. But yes, when someone tries to hurt one of our own, we respond. The law doesn't always protect women like us, Maya. Sometimes we have to protect ourselves. That night, Maya lay in bed listening to the sound of motorcycles returning from patrol. She heard low voices in the garage below, the clank of tools, the hiss of air compressors. These women had created something the system couldn't or wouldn't provide. They'd built their own justice, their own safety, their own family, and somehow, impossibly, she was part of it now. The lawyer arrived on Maya's 8th day at the firehouse. Her name was Patricia Kwan, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who carried herself like someone who'd won a lot of battles. She sat across from Maya at the kitchen table with a thick folder of paperwork. "I've reviewed your case file," Patricia said. "You were placed in 14 different foster homes between ages 6 and 13. Multiple reports of abuse, neglect, and institutional failure. The state basically gave up on you." Maya's jaw tightened. "Tell me something I don't know." "Here's what you don't know. You have legal grounds to sue the state for criminal negligence, but that takes years and doesn't solve your immediate problem. So instead, we're going to petition for emergency emancipation. You'll be declared a legal adult with the right to make your own decisions, sign contracts, and live independently. The sisters will serve as your support network." "Is that even possible? With the right judge and the right documentation?" "Yes." Patricia pulled out a pen. "I need you to tell me everything. Every placement, every incident, every time the system failed you. And I need you to be completely honest, even if it's hard." Maya spent 3 hours talking. She told Patricia about the foster father who locked her in a closet for wetting the bed, the group home where older kids stole her clothes and food, the caseworker who never showed up for scheduled visits, the teachers who labeled her troubled and stopped trying to help. By the end, Patricia's expression had gone from professional sympathy to barely contained rage. "I'm going to make sure this never happens to you again," Patricia said quietly, "and I'm going to make sure the people who failed you are held accountable." "I don't want revenge," Maya said. "I just want to be left alone. Sometimes the best revenge is living well." Patricia closed her folder. "You've got a court date in 3 weeks. Be ready to tell your story one more time." Then we close this chapter for good. Maya wasn't the only girl at the firehouse. Over the next 2 weeks, she met a rotating cast of survivors, some older, some younger, all carrying their own scars. There was Jasmine, 16, who'd escaped a trafficking ring in Nevada and hitchhiked 600 miles to reach the Iron Sisters. She barely spoke, communicating mostly through nods and headshakes, her eyes constantly scanning for exits. There was Maria, 19, who'd fled an arranged marriage in Texas and arrived at the firehouse with nothing but the clothes on her back and a black eye. She spent most of her time in the garage, learning motorcycle maintenance from Casey. And there was Lily, just 12 years old, found wandering a truck stop at 3 in the morning. She'd run away from a foster home where the father had been too friendly. She slept with every light on and woke up screaming twice a night. Maya watched Reese and the other women care for these girls with a patience that seemed infinite. They never pushed, never demanded explanations, never made promises they couldn't keep. They just showed up day after day, offering safety and the space to heal. One afternoon, Maya found Lily sitting in the garage, watching Casey replace a motorcycle chain. "You can come closer," Casey said without looking up. "I don't bite." Lily inched forward, her small hands clutched together. "You know what I love about motorcycles?" Casey continued, her hands moving with practiced precision. "They're honest. If something's wrong, they tell you immediately. They don't hide problems or pretend everything's fine. And when you fix them, they work exactly the way they're supposed to. No surprises, no betrayals." Maya understood what Casey was really saying, that trust could be rebuilt, that broken things could be made whole again, that there was beauty in honest, predictable reliability. Lily whispered, "Can you teach me?" "Sure, kid, hand me that wrench." Later that week, Maya accompanied Reese on a supply run into town. They loaded the truck with donations from local businesses, clothes, toiletries, non-perishable food. At every stop, people greeted Reese by name, asking about the girls and slipping extra items into bags. "How do you fund all this?" Maya asked as they drove back. "Donations, fundraisers, and our own money," Reese said. "Most of us work full-time jobs. Gloria's a retired nurse. Vanessa manages a diner. Casey works at the bike shop. I do freelance security consulting. We pool resources and make it work. And the patrols. Volunteer time. We rotate schedules so everyone gets rest." Reese glanced at Maya. "It's not sustainable forever. We all know that. But we keep going because the alternative is unacceptable." "What's the alternative?" "Girls like you, dying on the street. Or worse." Reese's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I lost someone once. Someone I promised to protect. I was overseas and I couldn't get home in time. She was 15. She called me and said she was scared, and I told her to hold on, that I'd be there soon. But I wasn't soon enough." Maya's throat tightened. "What happened?" "Her foster father killed her." Reese's voice stayed flat, controlled. "Afterwards, the system called it a tragedy and moved on. But I couldn't move on. So I came home, bought a motorcycle, and started looking for others who felt the same way. Found 6 women in the first month. 12 years later, we've got over 40 active members across 3 counties. "I'm sorry," Maya said softly. "Don't be sorry. Be safe. That's all I ask. If this story is giving you hope, hit that like button. Maya's journey is just beginning, and you won't want to miss what happens next." The courthouse was smaller than Maya expected. A two-story building with dated carpeting and fluorescent lights that hummed too loudly. Patricia met them in the lobby, dressed in a sharp navy suit, carrying a briefcase that looked expensive. "The judge is fair," Patricia said as they walked to the courtroom, "but she's seen a lot of kids lie about their situations to get emancipated for the wrong reasons. You need to be honest and direct. Tell her exactly what you've been through and what you want for your future." Maya's hands were shaking. Reese squeezed her shoulder. "You've survived worse than this," Reese said. "This is just words on a record. You've already won the hard part." The courtroom was nearly empty. Just the judge, a court reporter, a representative from Child Services, and the Iron Sisters, who filled two benches like a silent army of support. Judge Helen Vasquez was a grey-haired woman in her 60s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She reviewed Maya's file for several minutes before looking up. "Miss Rodriguez, I've read your case history. 14 placements in 7 years, multiple reports of abuse and neglect, failed interventions by Child Services. The state has essentially failed you in every measurable way." Maya stood straighter. "Yes, Your Honor. And now you're asking to be legally emancipated at age 14, to live independently with support from a motorcycle club." The judge's tone was neutral, giving nothing away. "Help me understand why this is in your best interest." Maya took a breath. "Because the system can't protect me. It never could. Every time I was placed somewhere new, I was told it would be different, that this family would be safe. But it never was. And every time something went wrong, I was the one who got moved, not the people who hurt me. And you believe the Iron Sisters can provide a more stable environment. They already have." Maya's voice grew stronger. "In 3 weeks with them, I've eaten more regular meals, slept in a real bed, and felt safer than I did in 7 years of state custody. They helped me get medical care, therapy, and legal representation. They didn't do it because they get paid or because it's their job. They did it because they care." Judge Vasquez turned to the Child Services representative. "What is the state's position?" The woman, middle-aged with tired eyes, stood reluctantly. "The state acknowledges significant failures in Miss Rodriguez's case. We have no current placement options that would be suitable for her needs. If the court grants emancipation with appropriate oversight, we won't contest it." The judge made a note. "Ms. Kwan, you're proposing a unique arrangement here. The Iron Sisters aren't a licensed foster agency." "No, Your Honor," Patricia said. "They're a support network that has successfully assisted over 300 women and girls over 12 years. They provide housing, counseling, job training, and community. They don't replace the family structure. They create one that works." Judge Vasquez leaned back in her chair. "Miss Rodriguez, if I grant this petition, you'll be legally responsible for yourself. That means you can sign contracts, make medical decisions, and live where you choose. But it also means you won't have the safety net that other minors have. Do you understand that?" "Yes, Your Honor. But I haven't had that safety net anyway. At least this way, I get to choose who I trust." The judge was silent for a long moment. Then she signed the document in front of her. "Petition granted. Maya Rodriguez is hereby declared an emancipated minor with full legal rights and responsibilities. Ms. Kwan will serve as legal counsel of record, and the Iron Sisters will provide residential support with monthly check-ins from the court. Miss Rodriguez, I hope you understand how rare this is. Most judges wouldn't grant this, but your case history speaks for itself, and frankly, so does your advocate." She nodded toward Reese. "Don't make me regret this decision." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I won't, Your Honor." Outside the courthouse, the Iron Sisters erupted in quiet celebration. Hugs, high fives, and a few tears from women who rarely showed emotion. Maya stood in the center of it all, feeling something she'd never felt before: belonging. Reese pulled her aside. "You're free now, Maya, legally free. What's the first thing you want to do?" Maya thought for a moment. "I want to learn to ride." Reese smiled. A real smile, not her usual controlled expression. "Then let's teach you." Learning to ride a motorcycle was harder than Maya expected. The bike was heavy, the controls were sensitive, and the first time she dropped it in the firehouse parking lot, she burst into tears of frustration. Casey picked up the bike without comment. Everyone drops their first bike. Hell, I dropped my second and third ones too. Get back on. Maya climbed back on, her hands shaking on the handlebars. Feel the weight, Casey instructed. Don't fight it, work with it. The bike wants to stay upright, you just have to let it. Slowly, painfully, Maya learned the basics. How to start the engine, ease out the clutch, find the friction zone, how to lean into turns instead of fighting them, how to trust the machine beneath her and the road ahead. After 2 weeks of practice in empty parking lots, Reese declared her ready for the road. We're going to ride out to Crystal Lake, Reese said. About 30 miles through back roads. You'll stay in the middle of the formation, between me and Gloria. Follow our lead, match our speed, and if anything feels wrong, signal, and we'll pull over. Maya's heart hammered as 7 bikes roared to life in formation. She'd never been part of something like this. A coordinated movement of power and purpose, each rider connected to the others through signals, trust, and shared understanding. They pulled out onto the highway, and Maya felt the world open up around her. The wind rushed past, carrying away months of fear and uncertainty. The road stretched ahead like a promise, open, endless, full of possibility. At Crystal Lake, they parked in a line and walked to the water's edge. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Maya stood between Reese and Gloria, watching the light dance on the waves. When I first learned to ride, Reese said quietly, I was angry at everything. Angry at the system, angry at myself for not being there when it mattered, angry at a world that lets children suffer. The bike was the only thing that made sense. It was honest, direct, and it never lied to me. Does the anger ever go away? Maya asked. No, but you learn to channel it. You learn to use it as fuel instead of letting it burn you up. Reese looked at Maya. You're angry too. I can see it. And that's okay. Just don't let it poison you. Gloria spoke up. I was a nurse for 35 years, saw every kind of suffering you can imagine. When I retired, I thought I'd rest, travel, maybe read some books. But I couldn't stop thinking about all the women I'd treated who came back again and again with new injuries and the same scared eyes. One day I saw Reese at a community center talking about the Iron Sisters. I signed up that night. Why? Maya asked. Because I couldn't save them all at the hospital, but maybe I could save a few out here. Gloria smiled. And I've saved more than a few, sweetheart, including you. They stayed at the lake until the stars came out, talking about everything and nothing. When they finally rode back to the firehouse, Maya felt something shift inside her, a loosening of the knot of fear that had lived in her chest for years. She was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could build something new from the wreckage of her past. 2 months after arriving at the firehouse, Maya took her first patrol. She rode behind Reese and a biker named Carmen, a former army medic with sharp eyes and a gentle manner. Their assignment was the downtown corridor, a stretch of streets known for drug activity, prostitution, and violence against women. Our job is to be visible, Carmen explained as they geared up. We ride slow, we watch, and we respond if someone needs help. Most of the time, nothing happens. But when something does happen, we move fast and we move together. At 11:45 p.m., they rolled out into the night. The streets were alive with activity, people spilling out of bars, homeless encampments under bridges, clusters of men loitering on corners. Maya felt eyes tracking them as they passed, measuring, calculating. The call came at 12:23 a.m., a woman's voice, shaky and scared, on the emergency hotline. I'm behind the Riverside Motel. My boyfriend locked me out of our room and there are men out here. Please, I need help. Reese's voice crackled over the radio. 2 minutes out. Carmen, take point. Maya, stay close. They accelerated through side streets, engines roaring in the quiet night. The Riverside Motel was a two-story dump with flickering vacancy signs and boarded windows. Behind the building, a woman in her 20s stood pressed against a dumpster, facing three men who were clearly not interested in letting her leave. Carmen dismounted first, her movements calm and deliberate. "Evening, gentlemen. You mind backing up?" One of the men laughed. "Mind your own business, lady. This is my business." Carmen took 2 steps forward. Reese and Maya flanked her on either side. "The woman's coming with us. You can leave now, or we can make this difficult." The men looked at each other, doing the math. 3 bikers, radios, obvious competence. One of them muttered something and backed away. The other 2 followed. Carmen turned to the woman. "You okay?" The woman nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. I didn't know who else to call." "You called the right people." Carmen handed her a card. "This is the address of our safe house. You need somewhere to stay tonight?" I don't have anywhere else." "Then let's get you somewhere safe." They loaded the woman into a support vehicle that arrived minutes later, driven by Vanessa, who kept a stash of blankets, water, and emergency supplies in her van. Maya watched the woman's face as they drove away, saw the same expression she'd worn 2 months ago, disbelief that someone had actually stopped to help. Back at the firehouse, the woman, her name was Christina, sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea, telling her story. Abusive boyfriend, nowhere to go, trapped in a cycle of violence she couldn't escape. "You can stay as long as you need," Reese said. "We'll help you figure out what comes next." Christina looked around at the women gathered in the kitchen, at their scarred hands and steady eyes, at their leather jackets and quiet strength. "How many people have you helped?" she asked. 347, Gloria said, "including you." "Why?" Maya spoke up for the first time. "Because someone helped us, and now we help others." Christina's face crumpled. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank us," Maya said, repeating the words Reese had told her months ago. "Just promise that someday, when you're stronger, you'll help someone else the way we helped you." Later, after Christina had been given a room and the others had gone to bed, Maya stood in the garage looking at the line of motorcycles. Reese appeared beside her, silent as always. "You did good tonight," Reese said. "I didn't do anything. You showed up, that's always the first step." Maya traced the emblem on the nearest bike, 2 crossed swords behind a shield. "What does it mean?" "Protection and justice. We protect those who can't protect themselves, and we fight for justice when the system won't." Reese put a hand on Maya's shoulder. "You're one of us now, Maya. Fully. Not just someone we saved, someone who saves others." Maya felt something settle in her chest, a sense of purpose she'd never had before. "I'm ready," she said. 6 months after Maya arrived at the firehouse, a 13-year-old girl named Sophie was found sleeping in a bus station bathroom. The police called the Iron Sisters hotline at 2:47 a.m. Maya took the call. She rode out with Reese and Gloria, but when they arrived, Maya was the one who approached Sophie first. She crouched down beside the terrified girl and spoke quietly. "My name's Maya. I was used 6 months ago. These women saved my life. Will you let us help you?" Sophie looked up with hollow eyes. "Nobody helps people like me." "They do now," Maya said, extending her hand. "Come with us." At the firehouse, Sophie went through the same routine Maya had experienced. Hot shower, clean clothes, warm food, a safe room with a lock that worked. Maya sat with her in the kitchen while she ate, answering questions, sharing her own story. "You really aged out at 13? Sophie asked. "Yeah, the system gave up on me, but these women didn't." "What if they give up on me?" Maya thought about all the nights she'd asked herself the same question, about the slow, painful process of learning to trust, about the moment she'd realized that some promises were actually kept. "They won't," Maya said. "I promise." Over the next few months, Maya watched Sophie transform the way she had, watched her start to smile again, to sleep without nightmares, to believe that maybe the world had room for girls like them after all. And when Sophie asked if she could learn to ride, Maya was the one who taught her. On a cool autumn morning, Maya led her first official patrol. She rode point, with Sophie in the middle of the formation and 3 other Iron Sisters bringing up the rear. They cruised through neighborhoods where girls still slept under bridges and in abandoned buildings, their presence a silent message. We see you. We're here. You're not alone. At a stoplight, Maya looked back at Sophie, 14 years old now, sitting straight on her bike, her eyes clear and focused. She thought about the terrified homeless girl she'd been just 1 year ago, and the woman she was becoming. Reese pulled up beside her. You thinking about how far you've come? Yeah? Good. Don't forget it, because there are going to be hard days ahead. Days when you wonder if any of this matters, when you're tired and the work feels endless. What do you do on those days? Reese nodded toward Sophie. I remember her, and all the others. I remember that every single girl we save is someone's daughter, someone's future, someone who deserves a chance, and I keep riding. The light turned green. Maya accelerated, feeling the familiar surge of power beneath her. Behind her, the Iron Sisters moved in perfect formation, a convoy of women who'd survived the unsurvivable and chose to turn their pain into protection for others. They rode through the city as the sun rose, their engines humming a promise to every girl who'd ever been forgotten, abandoned, or left to survive alone. We're coming for you. Hold on. You're not alone anymore. And somewhere in the city, another girl in trouble would hear that sound and know that help was on the way. Thank you for watching Maya's story. If you believe in second chances and the power of chosen family, please subscribe and turn on notifications, because there are more stories like this one, and they all deserve to be heard. The Iron Sisters ride on, and so does hope.